Okay, welcome Jenna to the show. Thank you so much for being here and being in this conversation. Jenna is a galactic channel, so we're gonna go a lot of ways pertaining to Galactic Akashic Records and what we're going through, what the energies are right now, and we already talked probably for the last half hour of trying to catch up of what's going on the last 3 months of the year. But yeah, just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I kind of want to recap what we were talking about of like the main themes that feel really strong for us of like the death and the rebirth of sometimes it happening so fast. And I think a lot of people will like resonate with how you're feeling of like catching up to this new version of yourself, but not quite getting there. And yeah, I just wanted you to kind of speak a little bit about that of like, you know, you had mentioned you're adjusting your nervous system and just letting you go through that bridge. So I just kind of want to, let's just land right there where we picked off.
So, like I was saying, it literally feels like I'm like dying and rebirthing like every 5 minutes. Like lately, it just feels like once I get clarity on something or like, whatever I'm working on, it's just like, then it's like, nope, just kidding. And we're just like in the dying process again. And then it's just like that constant cycle of like transformation. And then lately I've been getting the message to do somatic stuff for a little while, and I've just been, kind of ignoring it because that's what I do until I'm like, okay, it's time. Because I do notice that my nervous system is constantly like either in fight or flight mode or freeze mode. So, and then the one thing that I mentioned before is now I'm like,
we were like flowing,
like blah blah. Yeah. It like won't fall out of my mouth now because we all got it out before. I'm like, where are we going with this? So we were talking about how the nervous system has to catch up to the new light codes, the new energies that we're bringing in, and how we tend to forget our tools in the whole, when you need them.
In the thick of it.
Yeah, like I always forget my tools in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes like those like ungrounding energies can hit me like so quickly, like it's almost like I don't even have a chance to like ground. It's like I'm just out of my body. Which also having those high frequencies come in can actually kick you out of your body because you're not used to those coming in. But we'll see if the somatic stuff works. Seems very gentle. And it kind of goes along with my devotion word. And I'm trying to be more soft with myself, not so hard on myself. Really being careful about my self-talk and not like beating myself up because I'm not doing what I think I should be doing or what other people think I should be doing. Yeah. Which I feel like the other people part is the harder part than myself. But I noticed too that my people pleasing tendencies tend to be a little bit more as I'm going through a different transformation, depending on where I'm at. Because the galactic part of it is the part that not a lot of people are ready for. So it's kind of the part that I don't get to express all the time, even though I'm like kind of open about it. Even at work, I'm open about it. But it's been the part that's actually changed my entire like life, like recognizing this part of myself and reconnecting to this part of myself. And this is the part of myself that I feel like is rebirthing and transforming and dying off like every 5 minutes. It's that part of me. It's the galactic part. Like I'm learning, like I'm letting my ego go in order to bring in more of what, like more galactic energies, more channeling of those energies. I'm more open to accepting energies from, whoever I'm working with or whoever wants to connect in with me. Lately it has been more dragons though. I'm assuming that's because of the year of the dragon. But also they've just been in my field for quite some time now, but now they're just like, no, we want to work with you one-on-one. And that's like, we want to work with you more. And I'm like, okay, however that looks. So I spent the last few weeks being very fiery and sassy and spicy because the dragon energy hits you hard.
It's
Yeah.
heated. Yeah. It's
So
I
I
yeah.
feel for everybody I had to work with in those like 2 weeks that I was just inundated with dragon energy. I'm just like, leave me alone. Like, and I have to serve. I serve a server for work. So I have
Uh-huh.
to people like the entire time. And I have to try to like, be, personable to some extent. And man, peopling these last few weeks has been a little difficult. Just whatever the energy is out there, I don't know what's happening, but there's always something going on.
Literally. Literally. It's so like well, actually, I want you to talk more about like integrating that galactic part because this I think that I think when we feel these really intense things, and if someone's not really aware of, I mean, if people are listening to this podcast, you're probably aware, but typically when you have these parts of you come in and they're like really powerful, really overwhelming, or really different than what you're used to, you don't really know that's a galactic part of you. So like when you're talking about that piece, like just let me like how did that come
So,
through and how do you work with that more as you're
man, I don't know.
in
My
your
spiritual
channel?
journey started with the whole your soul is not from here. And I was like, what? And
Same,
kind of
same.
went from there. And I was like down the rabbit hole. I'm like, what's a star seed? Lemuria?
Yeah,
What's that? And then I'm more connected to Lemuria than Atlantis, but Atlantis has been in my field a lot more lately. So
yeah.
um, I
Because
think,
I remember when we were in Andrea's container, you were really deep in your Lemuria, like
yeah.
kind of journey of really connecting to those roots really
Yep.
strongly. Yeah,
And so I definitely connected to those roots. And now it's like I can feel it in my system how embedded, and like nobody could tell me that I didn't have a lifetime there if I wasn't from there. Same as my galactic self. Nobody, like, it's one thing that I know at my core is my truth.
hmm
And
yeah,
nobody could ever tell me that I never had these experiences, because I know what I healed and I went through, and the craziness that I felt going through it, which is all completely normal because our
yeah,
egos make us like, they question everything. So it's like it's a matter of trying to set the ego aside in order to allow that part to come in. Um, but for me, like when I'm really like, so whenever I have anxiety or I feel ungrounded or something, like I do ask, because for me it doesn't always mean that I've like it's a trauma response. It could
hmm
literally just be inundation of like anxiety, like energy,
yeah,
that's wanting to come in and integrate into my body. And if you're not used to the high frequencies, or your body is just like, it's kind of like an empty vessel once you go through death, right? So it's like
yeah,
you're all, even though like you're you're taking the time to fill yourself back up with yourself, you're also in the void space. So
mm,
in that void space, we tend to want to reach for so many different, like for me, I always reach, for me, I actually, that's when I want to intensely work with other people more
mm,
than do the work, do my own energy work. It's when I want to reach out and like work with, like, it's when I get most excited. Like I'll see somebody and they're like, oh yeah, because they'll talk to the medicine that I need in the moment, right?
yeah,
So but then, I have to remember I am the medicine. I'm my own medicine. I'm perfectly capable of moving through this void space myself. Um, but I don't know, it's really hard to describe how this part of me just like, it just happened. And then all of a sudden it just wouldn't go away.
yeah,
So like, it was like something that I had to like accept, or it would just like keep just bothering me.
yeah,
Um, and like I would just keep getting more and more signs around it. And then like the intensity of like, okay, so this kind of does feel like it's true to me. Like it won't go away. I keep wanting to go down the rabbit hole about it, but
right,
like the search on the outside still wasn't doing anything for me until I started really, like, I didn't even know I could channel before all this. Like I didn't know anything about that. Um I also had no idea what half of the spiritual language was when I first got into this. So that was also confusing because I'm like, what's a download? And then you're like, what's a
Right.
download? And it's
Right.
literally just a thought that comes into your brain that you didn't have 5 seconds ago. It's like literally just information that
Yeah.
you weren't searching for and it just came in out of nowhere. Um, and the galactic part just like, it just constantly kept like, I just kept nurturing it and nurturing it. And so my galactic venture is with Nova, which Nova is actually my twin who is Octurian, but
Mm-hmm.
she shares energy with me. And so technically we're sharing a vessel, which is really confusing, like to people who I can't explain it half of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But so I hold her frequency along with my own frequency, and she's very high vibrational. Um, and obviously I am too. So we are holding all this energy in this vessel here, and I am really bad at grounding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am bad at staying grounded. I am
Yeah.
bad at being in my body. I have been better at it because of holding her, and
Mm-hmm.
she's taken me on this like long, confusing ride that
Mm.
just ended up still being here. And now I'm at this point where I'm like, yeah, nobody really can tell me that
Mm-hmm.
I haven't lived other lives, or I am living other lives on different planets or in a
Mm.
different dimensions. Like, um, and I personally have stopped searching for exactly where I'm from, why I'm like, I just stopped searching for that stuff.
Yeah.
It'll come. It doesn't help because it just
Yeah.
keeps you in this perpetual state of looking outside of yourself.
Yeah.
So I just, when something comes to me, I'll either go into my records or I'll sit with myself and I'm like, okay, how does this really feel to me? Because on the spiritual journey, I don't know if you've had any of the experiences, but when you find out that you've had these lifetimes, and some of them are like lifetimes that were like really monumental in history or just throughout ancient history. So your ego kind of latches onto that, like, and it has this like, I feel like it has this like this power growth. Like you're like, oh, I was this person, and then you're like, I don't know. It made me feel a little crazy at
100,
first. Um,
100%. I think,
yeah,
in like my experience, it was like, yeah, I'm very much a person that likes to go down the rabbit holes.
yeah,
And when I first started on like learning about like all this other shit, it was just like I became obsessed with it, and it
mm-hmm.
was like so much to where I felt like then disconnected with like what I was like doing on Earth. I'm like, well, why am
Yeah,
I here if like I've got all this magic
yeah,
and I've been everywhere else, and I was like allured into like all like upper chakras and wanting to connect to all these different things, and
yeah,
completely just removed myself out of like the power of being here in this body and why we chose to be here now. And so it's like it took me a long time to realize that, because I was
yeah,
very much in that space of like wanting to like almost disconnect from here to
yep,
connect up
and
there.
still keep up
And
here. Yeah,
yeah, so it was like I kind of wanted to like remember everything I was and am outside of. And then I almost felt like, well, fucking Erica's boring. Like, why would I want
yeah,
to be her? Like,
exactly.
when I could
Yeah,
be
exactly.
someone else.
But
And so, but now it's like so much more grounded in the spot of like, whoa,
same.
I've been having these like aha moments. And it was part of this. I've been on this beginning of this journey of I'm reading a book called Womb Awakening, and I'm also doing the Artist's Way book. So it's like meshing my creativity and honoring like all the feelings that have come up. And actually, from the Artist's Way book, what she speaks about almost with death and rebirth, and in this in between of like not allowing yourself to like be in that creativity mode or channel mode, and the patterns that I used to have that were very self-sabotagey, she
Mm-hmm.
speaks to. I'm like, oh my god, this has been happening this whole time, and there's words for it, and there's an
Yeah,
experience, kind of like when you get on the spiritual journey and you're like, wait a minute, all those things that I was feeling is like actually energy. And so anyways, so the womb space feels like she had a passage that I had read in one of my other episodes and I talked about, and it was like honoring actually your body as a vessel of not just being a vessel. It's a tool. It's our connector. It's like also light and magic, the physical human body. And so I like started to have this different mindset shift and also different perspective of like, wait a minute, the whole fucking point isn't to run away from all of what we're doing right now. It is this integration and adding to yourself, but also like, okay, I know that about myself over there, and I know this magic about myself here, and I can connect all these things, but also how am I then like pursuing the action within this world to integrate those energies in this world? And that's the hardest thing that it's been.
Exactly. It's like literally grounding your magic into your body without trying to leave your body in the process.
Yes.
Like that was one thing, like the one view for myself that's changed over the last 2 years is it's like, for me, it's like, I'm not looking at it as ascension anymore. I'm looking at it as descending into my body, because this is about being human. The experience is about being human, not about ascending off of this earth and going somewhere. It's about still having that spiritual experience while we're here on earth, and how to balance between the ebbs and flows of not only your spiritual journey but your human journey. And so the one thing I learned about Lemuria, and one of the reasons why it had fallen, was because we weren't able to stay in our physical bodies long enough. So what we were doing was we were creating all this density inside of our bodies, and we didn't want to feel it. Just like, and I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense on why I want to be out of my body half the time, because we don't want to feel all the discomfort that comes with being human. We don't want to do that. Why would we want to do that? Why would I want to cry for 5 hours? Because, but like the more I realized that the more I realized I was dissociating and disconnecting from my body, I ended up working with this one mentor for like about 2 years, and she helped me ground back into my body, and I've been pretty grounded and embodied in my galactic truth, in what I feel like I'm here to do, even though it's changed a couple of times over the last year of what I feel like I've been here. But it was what I needed. She was darker. I needed someone who was darker, who could actually take me through the mucky, dark. It's because it wasn't that I was afraid of facing them. I just needed a safe space to kind of like guide me through it.
Yeah.
And she didn't coddle me. She didn't really hold my hand. She just, she would just let me find my way on my own. And obviously when you're in a container, especially a spiritual container, you're being held in that container the entire time. So you're like in it. Once you sign up for it, you're in it. You're in that energy for the entire time until it ends and it closes. So you're literally going and still receiving all of that energy throughout the entire time, while you're beyond what your one-on-one work in that 1 hour or whatever that you're together. And if it wasn't for her and finally like getting into the muck, I feel like I would still be like in the ethers somewhere wanting to escape, because that was like the hardest part, all the dark parts of myself that I was escaping, the shadow work aspect. And it's like, I don't even know if I would call it shadow work, because it was like literally just swimming in the muck. And like half of the time I didn't know why I was crying. I just cried, half of the time I didn't know why I was raging out, screaming into my pillow, like beating the fuck out of it, because that's just what I wanted to do, and that's what needed to happen. And like when you start getting into the darker parts, that rage and everything comes up with it, and it was uncomfortable. A lot of the times it was super uncomfortable.
But so sacred.
So
sacred.
Like, and it's like I I got familiar with doing these practices, letting myself hit a pillow or scream, cry. I would rage cry into a pillow, and I would just scream. Like that experience I was telling you about in Vegas, that I died on the floor in the bathroom. Like I screamed. Did not care if anybody could hear me. I let it out. Because the energy was in my solar, and I could feel it coming up from the sacral, and it was just like overbearing, and there was no other way to let it out. Like at least in that moment, it didn't feel like there was any other way, and I had already started crying, so I had to go through it. But that was a moment that I did reach out to someone for support. They couldn't support me in the moment. So I was like, okay, so it means I'm meant to go through this, and it's fine. I've done this before. I can do this again. This is not my first time. This feels like a lot that I can't handle, but I can do it. And so I hugged myself in fetal position, and I just said, I'm here for you. I'm going to hold you through this, and we're going to get through this. And then I just opened my heart, and I felt so much, almost instantaneously better once I just was like, okay, we got this, and we're just going to finish going through this, and then it's going to be over, and then it'll be fine. And then
that's the whole,
but so for me, like it's, and I'm Pisces moon, so I do get stuck. I get stuck in my darkness because that's my feeling. But I'm an Aquarius sun, and my Aquarius sun doesn't like being attached to these emotions. But my inner world is just like Pisces, swimming in dreams and living in the fantasies and wanting to just swim in the muck for a little longer. So I've taken on dancing so I can move through things a little bit easier. And this time I did set the intention this year that ego deaths would be a lot easier and much more ease. If I was going to lose parts of myself, that last experience exhausted me. And I was like, if I'm going to keep doing this journey, I'm not going to be able to go through that all the time. Like it's exhausting, and I don't want to do that. I don't mind being uncomfortable. It was next level uncomfortable.
It's like setting boundaries with yourself to be like, all right, we're going to go through the things we need to, but like, we're going to do it in the ways that are in the most ease. I like that intention of just like, okay, we're still going to do the things that we need to do, but it can be easier.
We can do this a lot easier. And so I make it a point to connect in with my body a lot more often. Especially when, I have anxiety, I'll question it. And I don't know. And the whole integrating the galactic part of me it's just really helped with who I am. And like, it's just helped heal me in so many different, on so many levels. Like this talisman I had made for me, it's a little spaceship. And
so when you connect, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was like, when you connect with Nova, do you feel like your guys' energy is one and the same kind of all the time? Do you feel her more than sometimes, or does she come through specifically to you in channel, or how does that connection work with you?
We pretty much have been integrated solidly for like, I'd say the last 6 months, and she's jumped out a couple times. I can always tell when she's not with me inside my body or sharing energy with me. I don't really know. She's not really inside. Like, I don't know how it works.
Right. You're like,
it feels like she's literally
logistically wise. Right.
But so like, I feel like sometimes when I'm channeling, she's the one that comes out. She's way more matter of fact. She's just like, let's get this shit done. Fuck this shit up and get on with our merry lives. And I'm just like, but I'm human and I still have the human thing. So she's very sassy. She knows what she wants. She tends to sometimes forget that I'm the human one, and I'm still gotta go through the muck to get to where she needs me to be or wants me to be. We very much have similar missions. We have missions that we do ourselves, like together, and then we have our separate ones. So I'm living out 2 different missions at the same time.
Do you feel clear on what her mission is, or what that other?
She's pretty much a starseed awakener. She's here to build her. She's here to build her army.
Right.
She's here to find her army. So I think that's why, like we were talking about, like business, like that's why it's like, for me, I'm still trying to find my part. And I think my part is just more sacred. And it's the
Yeah.
part of me I haven't fully accepted yet. That ancient,
Mm.
primordial, like that deep down in my ancient sacred roots, like the sacred part. And it probably has a little bit to do with being brought up in religion. Even though I've connected to Jesus. Jesus was my first connection. And right now I'm working with Mary Magdalene also, aside with Lilith.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta talk
Yeah.
about Lilith.
Yeah, there's
Like,
like I'm working with them together, and it's weird, but it's not at the same time, because like it's like Lilith comes in with the vengeance, and I'm just like, and then Mary Magdalene's like, we can love, and I'm just like, okay. But as far as the me and Nova thing, it's right now I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Sometimes I
yeah.
can, sometimes she'll she'll speak to me, and I'll hear her. I know when she's trying to communicate with me. Like if I'm speaking, I can kind of tell like what's her and what's me. Like, but my personality is not really different. And we're not really different, because we are technically not separate. We're the same.
Kind of just interwoven in a way.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
basically and it's taken me a while to like really ground her in, and get to a point where she's not wanting to leave my body every 5 seconds, because I can tell when she does leave, it literally feels like I'm losing an entire part of myself.
Wow.
So
all that kind
it's
of
like this
clearing,
weird bond I can't really ever
Yeah.
explain to someone. It's literally like, I was actually explaining it to a friend at work who is a twin. And I was like, it feels like this. And she's like, I get that, because when I'm separated from my twin, like that's what it feels like. And I'm like, so I'm not going crazy. This is like really something I'm experiencing. And she's like, yeah. I was like,
You're like,
okay,
that
because I
sounds
feel
like twin
kind of
energy.
crazy. I feel really kind of crazy right now that I'm like, like nobody else can like feel or see Nova. So I feel like I'm having this imaginary experience within myself. And I feel like validation and those times is really awesome, because like this has been the craziest and most intense, but yet rewarding experience. And Nova has taken me through the ringer.
Wow.
And it's like, but ever since like integrating her and just staying that way, my life has changed.
Yeah.
And I'm way more grounded. I can tell when I'm not as grounded, except for sometimes I do forget when I'm spiraling, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is because I need to ground, or I need to shield better because my energy is growing now, and I have to shield better and come up with better ways to like protect myself and my energy, because I am around people all the time.
Right.
But as far as working with Mary and Lilith, I actually right now am more intensely working with Lilith, because I'm at this point where I'm still people pleasing, so I'm getting frustrated with it. It's very uncomfortable, and I can tell it happens a lot at work, because I'm around people that are not on their spiritual journey. So it's really, I think mostly I'm there mostly right now because Nova actually likes the people part of it, because like she's living vicariously through me as human. So she gets the experiences as I'm experiencing them. So I don't know, but Lilith has been helping me with boundaries,
Okay.
and
So that's what's,
mostly with boundaries,
okay.
and some womb work space, because I do have it was when you brought up the book, I actually am still afraid of my creativity. I self-sabotage when it comes to wanting to create. I sing. I haven't been able to sing. I almost like won't sing. I love singing light language. I love speaking light language. It's the part of me that definitely feels the most integrated within me. Like I love speaking light language. Like it's just I can feel the difference in my body when I do speak it, whether it's for myself or somebody else. And it's just my brain went, where was I? Where was I
Oh, with
saying?
Lilith in the womb space,
Oh
and we
yeah.
were talking about creativity. Our brains are zig, 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 zig. Yeah, right, right.
My
Being
brain
afraid
just
of creativity. Yeah, yeah.
um so yeah, so the creativity part is still like when people are like creating crazy containers and they're just like and then like they have like 10 and I'm just like I can't even
Yeah,
solidly create my one container.
yeah.
um so I've been, and I still, and I notice it with my daughter too, like I really have a hard time even playing with her or letting that part of myself come out to be creative and
Mm,
allow it to play in a way that I want to play.
yeah,
And I actually get more triggered when she wants to do the things, even if I want to do it too. If she wants to do it, I have this like wall of resistance that just it's just like, no, you can't. I'm sure
wow.
that's from childhood stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
um
those are things, yeah, that's clearly something to look at because you're just like, wow, why is this such an issue for me? But yeah, I think it's a part that like we sever off very early within like the mindset or construct of like society of like putting that side away, that side's childish, like
yeah, you're an
doing
adult
what
now,
should be
don't do these
done.
things.
Exactly, adulting and all these like,
Yeah.
and it's almost like you can't hold both. It's like saying that like because you can't be a grounded adult that is doing all the things that they should be doing and be creative and let the energy. It's like
God, you know what?
they sever that, and it's so
Vegas
not
taught me
true.
differently. Vegas taught me, a lot
Yes,
to Vegas taught
right.
me that they both can coexist.
They
And
can.
working with
Yes,
Lilith and Mary have taught me that both can coexist. I can have light and I can have dark, and they can coexist together
yes,
and work in
yeah,
tangent
yes,
because there's no difference between the two. It's
exactly.
still all one. Even though it looks like duality, it's still all one. It comes from the same exact place. So like
Literally.
when people look at light and dark, they think dark is just like all the evil you see in the world. And yeah, it is, but it's like, what would we do if we didn't see it?
Yeah.
You know, what would happen if we didn't see it? And what would like, and then how would we get on the other side of that and see the light of it if we don't see it in the first place?
Yeah. I think that's also why it's like can be difficult to start that shadow work journey. And
Yeah.
most of us, I know I definitely did this in the beginning of myself. I did this pretty much my whole life up until the last like 2 years of just bypassing everything that you're
The love and
feeling
light.
and
It's all
the
love and
exactly
light.
love and light and it
Like,
because
just
it
pause
feels
it here,
good.
take it away, it'll go away.
Yeah, it feels good. It works at the beginning for a little bit. And then
Yeah.
once you get into it, you're like, oh shit. And it's not always even like the darker things in our shadow. It's
No, it's not.
things that we're just not accepting, like creativity,
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
positive and good, but we shove this part down. And so, and I've been exploring a huge amount of this in my life recently. And, it's like when you get down to the root of things, you're like, that's not even like that wasn't like that's it like
What
that's
does
what
that
was
have to do
causing
with
havoc
anything?
of everything else, like that
Yeah,
little moment that you're able
yeah,
to like bring to the surface and
yeah.
give light. And then it's
I
it's
think that's
insane.
why
It's
it's so hard to get to the root of things sometimes,
yeah,
because it's literally it's something that you would consider so minimal, but to
yeah,
your little child it was
huge,
catastrophic. It was the worst thing that ever happened to you. And
yeah,
sometimes I forget that with my daughter. Like,
yeah,
you
oh
know,
yeah,
like the fact that like her world is catastrophic over everything, any little thing.
yeah,
And for me, I find a lot of like the receiving love on that end of things is still hard for me. It's still
mm,
hard to receive love, even from like from the inner child standpoint. I still get jealous of Sarah Joy because I give her love that I didn't get in my
mm,
childhood. So that's one thing I've been like being more aware of. It's still a deep wound that I still have to heal, because it's probably the hardest one.
yeah,
Um, but the as far as like being like allowing the creativity to come through, like it's like, why can't I just let my inner child come out with her. Like, what is so unsafe about it? And I'm glad we're talking about this, because it's probably going to bring me to an epiphany of like, what does it
Yeah,
have to do with anything?
literally.
And literally, like, the things that stop us are like, oh, you broke your pencil during art class and you couldn't finish your paper, and now, you know, the world ended
Yeah.
in a moment. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Someone said one weird comment to you when you were a kid, and then you're just
yeah,
like, oh, I'm not an artist like that. You
yeah,
know,
now I'm never
it's,
doing this again.
yeah. And that's where, like, I think that's what happens, like, with the spiritual journey is like it finally gives language to what you've experienced. And when I've
Hmm.
read this book so far, and I'm just at the beginning of week 3. And so finally, she's describing all of these things that, like, I have felt and experienced and thought that I was going crazy of like, why couldn't I
Hmm.
just do it like everybody else could just do it?
Yeah.
And she speaks, so I highly recommend you getting it and
Which
working
book
through
is
it
that
because
one? The
it's,
art one?
yeah, The Artist Way. I wonder if I have it, but I don't have it with me. But yeah, I'll send it to you. Or I can link it in the notes too. Yeah, The Artist Way. And it literally is like, it's a book, but it's like a workbook. So it's like a 12-week course.
Okay.
And she takes you through like this beginning of a little blurb about like the issues that'll come up and why we sabotage. And she's like speaking directly to like what I have experienced for years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, this is just like a known thing that people go through when they're like trying to, I was like,
So
this
like
isn't
not
just me.
normal.
This isn't just me that's like
Yeah.
sabotaging all these things. And it was like, it's been huge for me and getting back my creativity. And I had just bought some like paints and stuff. And it's like small steps of like letting yourself, she calls it a recovering artist. And it's
Yeah.
like almost the way that I feel like when we go into these readings or when we find out the truth about ourselves
Mhm.
galactically, it's like you're recovering your soul and you're
Yep.
remembering. And it's
Yep.
like also a process of this, like you're recovering this piece of yourself that you're like, oh, okay, so all those things that I did was that, and it speaks to different reasons why you would, and why you keep yourself safe, you know, of
Yep.
not exploring these things. And then ultimately you beat yourself up again because like you didn't do it. And so
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, it's been really helpful even within the shadow work stuff, because she even talks about like ultimately you're the one that's causing the havoc and
Yeah, of
stopping
course.
yourself
It's
from doing
always
it. So it's kind of
exactly.
like,
And I'm at
you
that
know,
point where I know it's me. Like,
right,
I'm not
right.
trying to blame it on anything else because I know it's me. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
I know I'm the only one stopping myself from doing this. And, you know, and I've even
yeah,
bought art stuff. I bought some like
yeah.
pencils and crayons. I bought some canvas paint by number stuff. Um, I've even like gone to paint nights with a friend. We've gone to a couple.
Yeah.
Every time we're like, this sucks. Like, I can't paint. And then we take it home and it kind of grows on us. We're like, oh, it's
You're
actually
like,
kind
oh,
of
this actually
good.
looks good.
It's actually
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
good. But it's like, it's for me, I know I'm meant to use my voice. And the singing
Mm-hmm.
part is like my creative,
This
like I
art.
can feel it.
Yeah.
I can feel it
Yeah.
in my body. I can feel how much it just shifts my entire being.
Yeah.
Like especially when I sing light language, like
Yeah.
it's like it's better than singing in English and singing a song that I resonate with. And that's why I've been doing more dancing, because that makes me feel the same as when like I'm singing.
Mm.
So I've been trying to shift into do it, but I'm still stuck in this like oh, I have to do it the hard way. I can't dance
Yeah.
it. I have to be stuck in my feelings or I'm not doing anything. You
Yeah.
know, I'm
Or I
not
have to be
doing it.
wallowing in the, and
Yes.
that is something she speaks of. And I think this has been coming up a lot for me with a lot of conversations. And I think this is so important right now in like the world's in time and space that we're in currently, because how we connect to this and reconnect to the artist in ourselves reconnects us to our own divinity and our own source within, and
Yeah.
also connects our channel and our healing and all the beautiful things that birth out of this. So
Hmm.
actually carving out space for this, I think, is like it's the best thing that we could do for ourselves and our healing and the planet, I think. Because then think about like when you do that and you're singing light language and you're doing all those things, like how
Oh yeah,
much
I can feel
energy
my,
that shifts for
I
you and
know.
around and everything around you. And
Exactly.
it's
I'm
I think
even
it's
able to
really
handle
important.
things that happen with my daughter a lot easier. Like I can just feel the difference
Yeah.
in everything. Like it's more grounding.
Yeah, and she speaks to a lot of areas of why you do what you do, and then you're just like, "Oh, okay." And then you
Oh,
have awareness around it, and then
yeah.
you're like, "Okay." And then you continue to take those small steps, action steps that, you take yourself on an artist date, and then you do morning pages to brain dump, and you're always going to have this inner critic that you're going to have to kind of put at bay and not listen to and continue on and stuff. But
Yeah.
circling back to Lilith, how is specifically has she helped you work with, like, how do you work with beings like this? Like, how do they come to
So,
you and give you kind of
yes.
direction of what to do?
So most of the time, like I'll see them a lot. I do have a Lilith statue and I have a Hecate statue. Actually,
Yeah.
Hecate's been in my field for a lot. Like I'll just see her a
Yeah.
lot, or things will come up a lot. With the galactic stuff, it's a little bit, well, it's not harder, but it more comes to me like in thought, or like it's just a knowing.
Yeah.
Um, and like I have bought cards that work more specifically with like activation energies and light code
Mm.
energies. I think one of the ones I've been actually enjoying, and I use this to, I'm like, where's my camera? I've been using this one a lot.
Ooh.
So
Gateway
this
of
one I
light
use,
activation.
I
Oh,
pull at least a card a week to learn like what wants to be activated in me.
yeah.
What part of my healing process am I going through? Because I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm still I'm mostly healing a lot of the things that I need to remember from those lifetimes.
Mm.
And though I don't search for them anymore,
Yeah.
if I feel like I'm holding something onto something that needs to come, and that's where the shadow comes back in. It's just a rejected part of ourselves that we forgot,
Hmm.
and it's, some of these parts are the best parts of ourselves that someone
Exactly.
just was like, no, that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
But Lilith was around, and then she just kept getting louder and louder and
Yeah.
louder. And I've channeled her a couple times through light language. I think she's always been with me, but now I'm consciously working with her. I don't work with her. I just I don't work with her any like how most people will work with her. I just work with her as if she's an energy.
Hmm.
And so when I feel like she wants to come in and help me with something, I'll just invite her in. I've learned what she feels like in my system,
Mm.
and how she moves through it. She's helped me bring up a lot of stories that I was telling myself.
Mm.
She's helped me burn down a lot in the womb space that was just holding me back. Um, she's helped me regain a lot of my power back with my ex, which has been my most challenging situation, basically since I've awakened. But my biggest healing catalyst in my journey. And for her, she just comes in, and I kind of, it's just like kind of like a knowing. And if you're paying attention, which this journey is all about paying attention to the signs,
Hmm.
and you will
And
ignore
the
them
feelings.
because, yeah, you will ignore them, and then they'll just get louder, and then you won't be able to ignore them anymore because you're just like, okay, let me just see what this is all about. And Mary Magdalene has been around since pretty much the beginning of my journey. Like I've connected with her a couple
Yeah.
times. Um, and like just with the galactic stuff, I kind of just have been feeling into it. Like I know I have had lifetimes in Mintaka and Orion. Um, so I usually get this like I don't know how it feels when you can feel someone wanting to come in and channel, but it's like almost like this like airway opens up.
Hmm.
Like it goes from like dense to like really clear all of a sudden, like you were in this like pathway of wind, and like,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
this
Like
like
space.
airflow. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden this big space just opens up.
Yeah.
A lot of my channeling I do while I'm driving.
Yeah, because
Just
you're in that like flow of just like you're distracted in a flow
Yep,
state where like you're doing something, so then you're easier to
yep.
have things kind of like, because you're like busy mind is being
Mhm.
distracted and focusing on things. That's super helpful. And even in walks, I feel like that too. Walks feel
Yeah, when
really
I'm in the
easy.
shower, it's like I channel my best light
Yeah.
language in there,
Yeah,
but I
right.
can't record it because I'm in
Right.
the shower.
The water, yeah,
Um,
right.
I channel some of my like most potent things in there,
I
and I'm
love that
like,
so
oh,
much.
why can't we do this side of the shower, because obviously water helps clear and move the pathway for you.
Yeah.
The same when I'm doing the dishes, I do channel a lot in the, when you're like focused on something and you can open up, when you're not like, your brain's not full of all these thoughts. That's usually when my most powerful channeling is. But for like, I don't know, for anything, I can kind of just like hear somebody wanting to come in, or and then I've been trying to get better at like asking who it is. Normally I don't, because as long as it doesn't feel bad to me. And I've had very gangster discernment like lessons from the spiritual world, which actually has kept me from working in the spiritual realm for a little while, because it was a gangster one, but I forgot I asked for it.
A gangster one. I
It was
that.
very gangster. I had to have my mentor clean up the mess after.
Wow.
It was gangster. It was like one that literally was like, am I doing, like, is this happening? Am I doing this to other people? Is this happening? Like, what if this, like, it just freaked me out. And I was like, it sent me down this spiral of, I can't do this. What if I don't want to fuck up somebody's life?
Right.
You know,
let this into somebody else's energy. Yeah. You get panicked when like you first are starting to,
and that's what discernment is, folks. That's why we use discernment.
By learning, like you actively,
And I will say this so it doesn't scare anybody. You literally can clean up any mess. If you find the right person, you just gotta find the right person. They'll clean up the mess. It's nothing that's serious to the point where, like, you know, you gotta worry about. It's just being aware of the energy now that's happened in your body. So, and there are sneaky energies. So it's like, and I asked for it. I totally asked for it, and then I forgot, and that's usually how it happens. But I suggest even channeling, like, to always use discernment, pay attention. I mean, I personally have never had any other experiences besides the ones I've asked for. But discernment is always the first thing that we all have to learn, especially when we're channeling. And unfortunately, sometimes those lessons are learned on your own when you have no idea what's going on.
And I think like you had said before, like learning the spiritual language, and like we have this in so many different areas of just like even business, finance, you know, we have these like fancy terms for really simple things. And I think that like when we say, like downloads or even discernment, like hopefully we use discernment like every single day in our normal lives. You are always constantly feeling into, can I trust this person? Do I want to talk to this person? Like, do I go into it? And so you do this in the physical all the time, this language of discernment. And it's the same thing when you're tuning into energies. It's like, but it can feel so like, foreign or new, but we actively, have that kind of,
it's literally just a way of life.
So then you do that in the physical and in the energy space. So and actually this is really helpful for me, because I'll have to start to work with Lilith more, because when you had mentioned the womb, like I'm just now focusing on womb space and womb clearing and getting into those parts of the shadows of myself and clearing those things away. And it like I had said earlier, like I got Lilith tattooed on my thigh in my early 20s. It was way before my spiritual experience or awakening. Like someone had I was actually an old coworker. It was my first nursing job, and he was like, have you ever heard about Lilith? Super random to bring up. He's not even religious. And I was like, who the fuck is that? And he had sent it to me, and I I feel like was channeled out from him. Just, he's like, I don't know why I told you this.
That is how you know. That is how you know.
And then I received it, now in hindsight, knowing this. But like I received that, read a few things about her, obsessed of like, I need this energy. This is like everything. Like I felt so connected to her. And even because there's so much like so many different stories. It's not very clear. Like it's all these different angles of people. You know, is she good? Is she bad? Is she so sucking souls or whatever? And whatever it was, I was just like, yep, I need this on my body. And that's how a lot of my tattoos are, will just come to me. But I'll that I feel is a very strong from you sign to work with her, especially in the womb. That feels pretty important.
For me, like especially just in women in general, like our sexual energy is repressed a lot because it's shamed a lot of the times. So
and exploited.
It's exactly, and it's kind of like helped me connect back in with that part of myself, because I abused that part of myself when I was younger. That's how I filled the void, with sex.
Yep.
So for me, it's like, it's kind of, actually, I pulled a card from a Mary Magdalene deck that I have, and it was it's like a rose deck, because I've been working with rose energy, also working with the Sisterhood of the Rose, and erotic power was the card that I got, and it's connecting back into that erotic sense, that raw sexual power that us women hold. And it's not even just women, men hold it too, but like it's just more repressed in the women, because we're not allowed to express that. Like we're not allowed to do this or that, because we're just it's just bad. So, and I think that's why when I was pulled towards the mentor that I worked with for 2 years, she just had this like raw, dark sexual energy, and she was just who I needed in that moment and who I wanted to work with. And I tend to be pulled towards more mentors that are like that, but I also know that I have a hard time being in my light, because the dark feels way more comfortable. So I do get triggered a lot by people who are like love and light, love and light, love and light. Or I can tell when someone may hold slightly more light than I do, like they're more connected into that like loving, gentle side of themselves, and I haven't been fully connected to that part of myself yet, which I'm working on. Right. But I do get triggered more by like that like love and light part of the community. It doesn't feel good to me half of the time anyway, because I know a lot of them, some people do bypass. But I also obviously question the trigger too. But also I think that's just to help me connect with the dark side. Because like when, I don't know about you, but when I started the spiritual journey, I thought it was going to be all fucking love and light, and that everything was going to be fucking rainbows and butterflies.
I was like, I didn't know this was going to be fucking hard. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Right? Like, my life was just going to change, and everything was going to be butterflies.
New timeline, and you can't fucking go back. Like there's no way of reversing it. Like you can't.
No unseeing any of it. I tried to not, and it just it just doesn't, because it just
it does. And even when you try to ignore it and you try to be like, well, this is silly of me, I'm just gonna go back to like my normal life and do normal things, and
like awakening.
And you do, your soul it literally just feels like it's dying, because you're just like
force it. You can't force an awakening. That's one thing for sure. And I think that's like what, like I think before my awakening started, I kind of started sensing it without realizing that's what I was sensing. Because I literally was like, I want it, but I didn't even understand what the hell it was. And then it hit me, and I was like, oh, well, this is a lot. Because the first 6 weeks I did nothing but cry. I'm like, every day I would just sit in meditation, I would cry. And then I started feeling energy, and then I started like feeling the current through my body, which was nothing I never felt before. And then I was like, okay, well, this could be cool. And then channeling came in, and then I can read the Akashic Records. What's that? Oh, and then that's what got do they have a Galactic Records? Because that's what I really want to read. I feel like I want to read those. I don't want to read.
So when you go into the Galactic Records, is it what comes typically through for people? Like, is it their history? Is it themselves? Is it, what do you like to connect, or what are you connecting people with?
So for me, it's just connecting in with their galactic family, their galactic aspects, and connecting them back into the heart space of what it feels like, so that they know that it's true. And it's like, I usually end up crying,
Mm.
because it's always so, the main response is that it's like this sadness, but like a sense of relief.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mixture of like being sad, but like relieved that it's like this knowing that, oh, this does exist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, I have spent so much time searching for the answer outside of myself, and some of it was helpful, but not a lot of it was helpful when people told me who I was and what I did, and it just made it more confusing because you
Yeah,
live so many of these lifetimes, and not all of them matter. Not every lifetime you've ever lived mattered.
true.
So, and it not mattered in the sense that it didn't happen. It just doesn't matter for this lifetime. It's not a
For
part
you
of you
right
that
now in these
yeah,
lessons. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So it's better off to follow things as they come up. And then like, I mean, I have had experiences where I've been able to tell people like where they're from,
yeah.
um, or just, validate some experiences for them. But typically I
Right,
don't, unless it's just what, if it comes up, it comes up, but I'm not
right.
searching for the answer for you. You can set the intention before you
Yeah.
start the session with me.
And yeah, I think that like I like that you had said that of because when I had first started, I was in like a session frenzy. Like, please tell me
Yes,
everything about me and
same,
everything I need to
same.
know
I need to
and
get
it
every reading, every healing that I
yeah,
saw. It was like,
literally.
and
And it
then
was
go ahead.
mhm.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
Think.
and it was just like some was super helpful, and I think it was part of that journey and process that I was meant to go through to learn all
Hmm.
those things, go through that extreme and go down that rabbit hole and figure that out. But as I have come back to balance it within myself, it's like you realize like when we first started the conversation, like it's like it matters, but what really matters is what you're doing right now. And
Yeah.
so it's following the signs and the synchronicities and the messages that you're getting now in this physical moment. And that could be through, non-spiritual people. It could be through books.
Yeah,
It could be through whatever you're listening to and like following those trails. And I think eventually you'll be guided to certain things like that. But
exactly.
it
And
is
then
more
some of them is
helpful.
just really loud and magnetic. Like
Yeah.
you don't understand what the magnetic force is
Yes.
between that person and you. But like, and now I'm actually not shy. If I feel like I'm being magnetically pulled to somebody, I'll just be like, so I don't know why, but I've been like, I feel like this pull towards you lately. And now I'm just going to set it in stone and let the universe know I'm listening.
Yeah.
And I know I don't know you. And we like, and I've been able to break the fear of following my intuition that way. I'm a people person anyway, in some
Yeah.
retrospects. So like, I don't, it doesn't bother me to like put myself out there like that. Um, but it's like, it really is just about following the signs.
Literally.
Like,
And that's like an easy way to like direct the energy with the universe of like,
yeah,
okay, I received the message. I understand. Got it. But then acting on the message or acting on that piece to be like, okay, and that's
exactly.
I think the actual action embodiment piece of what we're here to do
Hmm.
here, of like continuing through that. And then you'll get more. And I
Yeah,
think that you get more connected to it as you do that.
yeah.
And yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, for me, I just follow who, because I know sometimes when I'm really interested in working with somebody, it's because I'm trying to fill something that I already know, that like it's a void filler. It's still
Yeah.
filling a void when I don't know the answers to my own questions,
Yeah.
or I feel like I'm not receiving the answers that I want, not the answers that I need, the answers that I want. So, and that's another thing. When you go into sessions, you have this high expectation of what you want to hear, and sometimes it's not what you want to hear. It's what you need to hear. And I
Mhm.
don't go by. I have people typically set an intention, but like I also know that you're gonna get what you need in the moment, not what you think that you need. Because what you think you need is most likely not exactly what you need. It's just what you think you need.
Right.
and and that's the whole point of the channeling. You literally are channeling a specialized experience, a personalized experience for that person's soul. I don't work with the human part, I work with the soul part. And when you work with the soul part, it's not always understandable or perceived or received in the same sense as your human's gonna, like light language. Like
Yeah.
people are like, oh, you speak this funny language, or, what are you saying? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I know what I'm feeling. And it's not really about what I'm saying. It's about how you feel in your body when I'm speaking it. And the
Mm-hmm.
same when I'm connecting people in through these sessions, like I get more turned on by the fact that they're feeling this connection back in with themselves that they didn't even realize was even a thing. Um, and I personally do think that energy work is more than a one session thing. Like that's going to open
Mm-hmm.
up a gateway, but now it's your turn to figure out if this is something you're going to continue to keep doing through energy to connect with, or you're going to do it on your own, or how are you going to connect to it now? How are you going to keep allowing
Right.
yourself to connect to this energy now that you know that it's there and it exists?
100%.
And for me, like it's just been, and for me, I still have this, like, I feel like this is Nova's part of the work, and I can just feel the unconditional love that she holds for the souls that we're finding, and I can also feel the unconditional love of the families that are coming through, the galactic families that are coming through to
Mm-hmm.
reassure whoever I'm working with that this is like. But then they're also like, all right, it's time to wake up now. Come on, it's like,
Yeah.
let's go. You're here for a reason. Let's wake
Yeah.
up.
Like,
You know.
let's stop dragging
And
your feet. Yeah.
exactly. And for me, like we were talking about earlier, how I always want to be up here and do this, but now I'm being actually asked by working with the dragons and whatnot. I'm asking to be now work with more of the grounded elemental energy, because now
Yeah.
I've been up here and I'm connected to the galactic whenever I want. It's not like it doesn't go anywhere. But now it's to focus on the earthly energies that I have the ability to connect with also.
Yeah.
Because those are fun too, like the fairies and the
Yeah.
elves and all
That's
them.
That's really interesting that you said that, because even with my connection to the dragons, they literally were just like w- putting in a bigger root, like allowing me to be here for
Yeah.
like in a bigger way. And
Yep.
it's the focus of like all these the lower chakras of like rooting into the experience, rooting into and expanding this so that you could receive more, give
Yep.
more, and feel more at ease with that.
Yep. A lot
Yeah,
of my
and
messages around
yeah,
rooting and grounding. How am I anchoring this galactic self of mine that keeps expanding? But how am I rooting that and anchoring that to here?
yeah,
Because it means nothing if I can't anchor it into earth. Like
right.
that work means nothing. And that means, I'm here, and and this is where I guess the spiritual part of it can get overwhelming, or when you're trying not to self-sabotage, is when you know you're here for something so much bigger than you. And I've known that for a while in my journey, and I think that definitely scares the fuck out of me. That I'm here for this bigger purpose to serve, millions of people. I feel it. I don't know what it is. I can't see it. I can kind of see it. But my role here on earth has changed from healing to teaching, and
Mm,
teaching is way more scary than healing to me, because I'm like, oh, so now it's like, and then that's where the people pleasing for me still comes in play, because I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to teach what? And I know some of the things I'm going to teach are going to be against what the spiritual community
mm,
has known or believed all this time. And so
yeah,
that's definitely scary. But I also
yeah.
just see myself channeling and
Hmm.
teaching. That's how I see myself in the future. How I get there, I have no idea. But it's just like I just can see myself sitting, like, I don't know if you those big channels like Bashar or
Mm, yeah,
um, those
love
channels,
him.
but it's
Yeah,
not like it's different than them, because I'm not, it's like Nova, like
yeah,
Nova is my channel.
yeah,
She's the one that, and so it's basically me, but I'm like this other entity when I go into my channeling, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
I feel like what is coming up for me with that, how you're describing that, is like the, I don't even know where the statement comes from, but it's like the idea of what got you here isn't going to get you there. And
Exactly.
I think that has to do with the world now, and even in the spiritual community. Okay, it's gotten us this far to get us here, but it's not going to get us there.
Yeah.
So the different things that we're pulling through from channeling and the new energies that are coming through, I think it's really important to like clear away the idea of what the spiritual community is, or what it should look like, or what the business structure should be, or I should, I do containers and healing space. And this has been a struggle for me, because I have changed and done different things, and felt like, oh, maybe I was just quitting, but it was non-resonant for me anymore. And I didn't really know exactly like what it's going to look like, or like what it's supposed to be. But I know it's not anything that I've ever really seen. And I think like following the one little step and the little nudges as we go is ultimately what will get us there. It's not anything else, but just following your own intuitive guide.
Aha moment. I'm like, my business has been feeling like kind of stagnant. And even though I feel like it's not gone anywhere, it's because I keep outgrowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Before I can even start it.
Before you even get started. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, and a friend did ask me a couple of questions. She's like, okay, is this inner time? Is this, and I think it's definitely a part of like still being inward and figuring that out. But like, that just was like, well, maybe what I'm doing isn't resonant anymore. And there's a different way of doing this. And it's just not lighting me up anymore. I mean, I still like doing the sessions with people. I love connecting people. Like the biggest thing for me right now is I love connecting people to their alien. Like that is connecting them to that, and like just like the emotions that come flooding in with it. It's just like, but like right now I'm like running a woman's circle, and it's around healing with the rose, and that's the container that I'm working with Lilith and Mary Magdalene. Now that's the side of me I feel like is the sacred side that I'm still learning to connect with. And that's the other half of the puzzle of what I'm supposed to be doing, or what I'm meant to be doing, not supposed to be, because it can change every moment of the day. So like that ancient sacred knowledge and wisdom that I hold in my body, that probably holds all of my power, my full potential, where I'm still afraid of my full potential. I'm not afraid to admit that. And you can't call in anybody if you're not fully sitting in your power. So you're calling the wrong people. You don't want, calling in the wrong people is a lesson in itself, but it's like
a scary step to embody all of you. That's the piece. Yeah. And so it's like letting yourself again do the shadow work to clear things away, integrate it back in, expand the root, expand your nervous system, allow so you can receive more. But it is a process. And I think taking those actionable steps, and even if you don't know exactly what it is that you're doing, taking steps so then you're not staying in like a limbo state or of a I don't know state, because I put myself there too often, where then you linger of like
all the time.
Where you're just like, oh, I don't know yet, so I'm just not going to do anything until I know. Like and then you keep yourself there.
And I'm like, nope, if I cancel, I feel like I'm just going to get stuck in this space, and then I'll reschedule, and then I'll be in that space again the next time, and then it's just going to keep going. I might as well just do it and then see what happens. Because I obviously knew it was going to be a great conversation. I feel very open and comfortable with you, and we've been in containers together, and we've been able to watch each other grow over the last I don't know 2 years at least. It's crazy to think that it's already been that long.
No, I know.
Like
but then also in the same sentence, it feels like exactly. Like we were just talking at the beginning. Like I feel like I've been 100 people since when we were in the last container, and I'm just like, and it's letting yourself really go through that, and then identify with somebody different, and I think that's like when you had spoke of like needing this like really a holding on kind of energy, and we almost like don't want to like let go of that part of ourselves, because we know that part, we love that part, it's comfortable, and it's really difficult to be like, okay, whoa, that's not me.
Be safe up until this point, know. Gosh, it's scary. Like no part of this journey is not scary. And that's what I think is the main thing, is to remember, is that no part of this journey is not scary. Even the joy and the peace and the love that comes with it, which is actually harder to accept than the more difficult feelings of crying and discomfort and rage and anger. Like I find, and I'm able to hold a lot more of it now, it's harder for me to hold joy and the
Yeah.
peace
Oh,
in my body that I still like. I finally came to the awareness that I'm creating chaos because I feel so peaceful that I'm creating chaos, and the situation I create chaos with is with my ex. I
mm,
create that chaos because it's the only thing I know.
mm-hmm.
And so when I'm spiraling and like I forget I forget who I am and how far I've come since this moment. Like I was and then I actually had a session with Maureen that helped me come to this
Oh,
conclusion was that my inner child creates these situations because it's the only way she can get my attention
yeah.
is
Ah,
in the chaotic moments.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
now I've been like, okay, we don't need to do that. There's other ways of getting my attention. There's definitely other ways, but we don't need to
Yeah.
do it that way. Like
Right.
we don't need to do
Right.
it that way.
Like you said earlier, the intention of like, okay, this death and rebirth process or this learning or even healing can be ease, can be
Yeah,
fun, can be,
can be,
an
but
easy
it's just as
transition. But
uncomfortable to
yeah,
make transition as it is to sit in it.
absolutely.
And it's more damaging
Absolutely.
to resist that shift and knowing that you can just dance it out. You don't even
Yeah.
have to dance it out to happy music. You could be rage. I dance out. I've made it
You can
entertainment.
screamo, emo it
Yeah,
out and
you can do
stomp your
whatever it
feet.
is you want. You can head bang it out. You can stomp your feet, kick the air, punch the air. Like I sometimes
Yeah.
go like this, just because
Just be a little
it
crazy.
feels good.
I know.
You're not harming anybody. You're just going crazy for yourself. Like
Yeah.
it's like just invite all your feelings into your
Yeah.
world and just process them. I mean, sometimes I need to cry it out. I can tell when I need to cry it out because I become angry. So,
Yeah.
and if I hold in a cry, I become angry. And then if I hold
Mm.
it in too long, it becomes a big old mess. And so I'll end up crying anyway because it gets overwhelming and it just comes out. But
You might as well just cry and
it's
feel it the
just
first
a big
time.
old mess. But as far as like I've been learning like, okay, I could shift this just by dancing. I could put on
Yeah.
some happy music and I actually can feel the energy moving the moment I do that. Like I can feel it
Yeah.
moving. Sometimes I want to listen to that ancient, like, kind of like the
Drums
chanting
and
or
like
something. Yeah.
chair, right? Sometimes,
The
oh, that feels so good
those
sometimes.
who's it? What's his name? Portlandia? Portia? Borgia. Oh, I forget. It's beginning with a P. I really like them. Oh, I can all have to, but I like it a
Yeah, I
lot.
don't know. I can't feel that
I,
in
I,
the
can't, I
piano.
can't. It begins with a P. But it's a Portuguese guy.
Hmm.
And then I listen to like Dea, Dea,
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Dea. I'm like Dea.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yes. Oh,
Um, and then sometimes I'll listen to music I listened to in the '90s.
exactly.
I
And
made
that
like an
like,
alternative '90s playlist.
yeah. And that like connects you back to the parts of yourself that were
Yeah.
there that you need to like feel and I'm learning into that and the uh um the quantum hypnosis gal Christian that I had interviewed, she had talked about parts work and giving your
Oh yeah, I've
parts
heard
of
of that.
yourself names and then doing things that part, that person, that and integrating that. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, if that part, that teenager that wants to listen to that music again
Yeah.
and rage, you need to, that's what she needs right now. So do that. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been such a great chat.
I know. I know.
Um,
We could probably talk for like another
we could
five
talk for another hour for sure. This is how all my conversations are. And I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah. So I try to keep it around an hour. But is there anything that else that you like to share, that Nova would like to share, that feels like top of mind
Something
right now?
as we were talking. So one thing I think that really, really kind of like messed with me during this journey is like your journey, and it doesn't need to look like somebody else's, and you don't need to. Sometimes it looks spiritual, sometimes it doesn't, and
Hmm.
sometimes it looks like talking to aliens, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's there's nobody knows better than you. And
Mm,
at the end of the day, it's your journey. And just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean you have to. And I think that was another thing. Like I wanted to take on other people's way of doing things because I didn't know how to do them myself. And that's okay
yeah.
because it helps you learn at least what you like and what you don't like. but like working with different energies, people try to put you in this box. Oh, you can't do that, especially when you do tarot. No, tarot has all these rules. No,
Yeah.
there's no rules. We don't have rules. There's no rules. They're your own rules. You make them up. You learn what works. You learn what doesn't. You learn what's good for you and you learn what's not. Unfortunately, that's just how you learn. And at the end of the day, it's your journey and it's nobody else's. So no matter what I said today, it's still, that was my journey. Doesn't mean it's going to be somebody else's experience, but you know, we all have relatable, similar experiences is what I've actually, different situations, similar experiences. And yeah, just, I don't know. Don't be afraid to be yourself. I'm saying that for myself too.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to be yourself, no matter what that looks like. And I'm learning that the people who love me, they like my messiness. They like my little spiral craziness. And they love me when I'm full of joy and excitement. Like, no matter what, they love me. And that's been something that's been nice to learn on this journey, is that I can be my authentic self, whether that's ragey, cranky, hormonal, happy, crazy, happy, like whatever I'm moving through. They're like, they're there for it, all of it. And those are your people. And
those are your people.
It might be a small circle, but I have to say, since I've started this journey, I've met way more souls in my entire 4-year journey than that I actually like never knew existed. They don't live near me, obviously. Like Erica, she doesn't live near me, but we're souls that connected through this journey, and you'll find those people eventually. You do. You find them on this journey. You find them. You kind of like.
I love that so much, because it is, you look at different people's journeys of what they are doing or how they and you kind of like, you're like, oh well, I don't feel that, or I don't look like that, or even, you know, my signs or my gut or my intuition doesn't, I don't receive like that. And it's like permission to be like, it comes through however it's supposed to come through for you, you know. And
exactly.
I think that's,
and it all brings you back to your power regardless.
It's true.
So even my most aligned felt decisions that ended up not being aligned, or maybe they were, I don't know, they knocked me on my feet. They didn't bring me into this place of joy, but yet, you know, it brought me back to my power at the end of the day. And that's basically all this journey is for, is to help put you back in your power and be your true authentic expression, no matter what that looks like. And humans are messy.
We're messy, yes, and we don't always get it right. It's
why
so
we always
true.
want to be up here. But,
I know.
You know, but we're down here to learn this, you know, we're down here to learn that. And you can balance the two, and they can coexist.
Oh, that's a really good note to leave on, for sure. Really, thank you for that. That's really important to end, even through learning about other people's journeys. But thank you so much. And I will link all of Jenna's links in the bio, so you can follow her on Instagram, check out her sessions. Things will be changing within her business, but you can take a peek at her offerings when they do come, and just check out to see what her and Nova are up to. And I really, really appreciate the space and the time and all the things that you have shared with us today, because I think it's going to be really powerful and helpful for people that are listening. So thank you.